Welcome back to Awards Buzz. We are here talking about the Golden Globe nominations for TV. I'm Abe Friedtanzer,
I'm Shadan Larki.
And I'm Stacey Yvonne.
and we are going to start with a category where we don't have much to say because this is not really where we tend to focus, even though we like these people who are funny. The new category of Best Performance in Stand-Up Comedy on Television. Names that we all know: Jamie Foxx, Nikki Glazer, Seth Meyers, Adam Sandler, Ali Wong, Rami Youssef. No one else none of these people are nominated for other awards this year. It'll be interesting to see if this is something that stays in the future. Shadan, Stacey, thoughts on this, or should we move on to scripted?
I just have one thought, which is that Nikki Glazer is hosting, so I wonder if that makes a difference. And then I wonder, like, if she loses, then it's gonna be awkward because it's like she has to keep hosting the show, even though she lost. So that'll be interesting, like an interesting chasm in the evening, I think.
Well, I think it matters on when they announce it. So hopefully that's one they keep towards the end. That seems like a strange choice. But I am surprised that Hannah Einbinder isn't on here. I would have liked to see a nomination for her. But otherwise, I didn't know that Adam Sandler had a stand-up special this year. And the Jamie Foxx one is getting touted. I didn't know it came out. So yeah, I'm a little out of the loop with stand up.
So, if nothing else, this category has helped remind those of us who should be paying attention that these things exist, and perhaps by the time we get back to our winner predictions, we'll have seen some things. Moving on to Best Supporting Actor on any television series. This was actually my worst category, not as bad as usual, 3 out of 6. I would like to start by noting that I am thrilled to see Harrison Ford from Shrinking because Shrinking has had a
Talked about
rough
that.
couple of days. It got exactly one Critics' Choice nomination for Michael Urie, and did not make the series category. Did not make the series category here either. And I was worried that this would be the second year in a row that Harrison Ford just didn't get anything. And I'm so glad to see him here. Evan Moss-Bachrach, obviously, we're happy to see him again. And we had talked about Jack Loudon from Slow Horses, which is great. Those are the three that I got. Peter Sarsgaard did not get in for Presumed Innocent. Robert Downey Jr., The Sympathizer, is nowhere to be found. And Jonathan Pryce from Slow Horses was probably more of a gamble. We had talked about Javier Bardem from Monsters, the Lyle and Eric Menendez story. He got in, as did Tadanobu Asano from Shogun, which is great. He was also an Emmy nominee. And in a bit of a surprise, Diego Luna for La Machina, which I think is a really cool mention. I'm never really sure how international series are going to fare. And it's, even though that's the only nomination for the show, it's nice to see it, especially because Diego is a past Globe nominee for Andor.
Mm.
Yeah,
Any
I
other
love this
thoughts?
category. That's my thoughts. I did predict Javier, so I'm happy to have gotten that because I guess went on a little bit of a limb, but I never would have predicted Diego Luna. So that I feel like I love when I get a surprise where I'm like I never would have put that on my list. That those are always the most fun to me.
I got nothing.
Right.
It's fine.
Who wants to take us into supporting actress?
All right, I can do supporting actress. So we have Liza Colin Zayas for The Bear, our current Emmy winner, Hannah Einbinder for Hacks, Dakota Fanning for Ripley, Jessica Gunning for Baby Reindeer, Allison Janney for The Diplomat, and Kelly Reese for True Detective Night Country. So I think when we did our predictions, we were debating if both Baby Reindeer actresses got in. We only got one. And
Mhm.
then I think Allison Janney's an interesting, nice surprise here. Dakota Fanning is interesting. I had seen her in a lot of people's predictions, but I just didn't think that Ripley had enough juice to get her into a sort of a catch-all category like this, where you only have six. So she's a good surprise.
This is one where I am quite surprised. So when we talk about snubs and the snubs of it all, The Perfect Couple was such a powerhouse. And if she was going to be nominated for anything, I would have nominated Elle for that. Even though it is this kind of more campy performance, I think that's what makes it great because we're used to seeing these kind of overly dramatic roles from Elle, or excuse me, from Dakota, pardon me. And I really wanted to see her get something for like a little more comedy chops. But they kind of overlooked that show entirely, which is so sad. I'm pleasantly happy about Callie. I really want to see her go far, and I want to see more with that. And I think that Hannah's a good choice always. And this last season did have a Liza episode for the Bear, and so I think that that was really neat, and she did a fantastic job in that. So it'd be interesting to see if she gets the recognition for that.
I am happy to see Liza here. I do think it's interesting and perhaps not surprising that the Golden Globes are following Emmy voters, whereas last year they nominated only Abby Elliott. Then Abby was snubbed for the Emmys, and Liza won there, and now they're nominating just Liza. But I think it's great. I'm also happy to see Dakota. I personally would put her in for Ripley over the Perfect Couple. But I
Mhm.
know you're not as
Yeah.
fond of Ripley as I am, Stacey. So that's all good. Um, Sad to not see Napa Mao. I would have liked to see her favorite reindeer. Also, no Lily Gladstone. I don't know what it is. I would have thought that Killers to Flower Moon would have, completely skyrocketed her popularity, skyrocketed, and Under the Bridge massively underperformed at the Emmys. It's nowhere to be found here. Um, and I think this is a very competitive category because, Jessica Gunning theoretically is the front runner, but Haley Reese, Liza Colon-Zales, Hannah Einbinder, like it's hard to decide. And then there's Allison Janney. And unfortunately, our resident diplomat enthusiast, Sari, is not with us today, but she is all about that show.
Yeah.
And the more interesting is that Allison Janney is actually a new cast member in season 2, could theoretically even be seen as like a guest star. That said, it's only 6 episodes, and she's definitely in at least 3 of them. So for Emmy math, that counts as supporting. But it's interesting to see her. It shouldn't be a surprise, even though, as far as I remember, she did a lot better with the Emmys, winning untold numbers of prizes for The West Wing, whereas the Golden Globes were never as enthusiastic about her. And so that's where, like, I'm sort of sad to see that different awards bodies are sort of all merging together towards the same things. I'd rather have, like, as Shadan would put it, the expected, typical. You have the better terminology, but whatever the Globes, the so Globes pick, which we're not really getting here, I don't think. So let's move on to the limited series races at lead actor. Stacey, you want to take us on those?
Yes, we have Colin Farrell for The Penguin, Richard Gadd for Baby Reindeer, Kevin Kline for Disclaimer, Copper Cook, The Monsters, the Lyle and Eric Menendez story, Ewan McGregor for Gentleman in Moscow, and Andrew Scott for Ripley. I think that they went a lot harder on Ripley than I would have assumed. So I actually think that Andrew Scott might have this on lock, or like a Colin Farrell. I think it's going to kind of be split between them. Unfortunately, Baby Reindeer feels like it came out 3 years ago. It just seems like it's been so long. I don't know why either. Because did it come out 23 or was it this year?
It was in April 2024.
That's crazy. It feels like it's just always been, and I was late on it, so it feels even more like extended. But yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of steam. I know during the TV, like the Emmy season FYC, they brought them out and they did some stuff. But again, I think most of the attention was on Nava and her performance. So, Ewan McGregor could be an interesting one on that too. But
We
I
called
really,
him. We called him.
yeah,
Yes, I'm so happy. I was like, I just feels like such a Globes thing to me, and then it happened. I think I went 6 for 6 in this category, and I'm really, really
nice.
proud of myself because we'll get to maybe the next category coming up where I did not do as well. But I just was like, and a lot of people that I know that are like international or like, have you seen A Gentleman in I just, and it's you. They just love you and McGregor. I would love to talk to the Globes, a Globes person, be like, what is it about you and McGregor?
He's an
But
international man.
he's like, I love Ewan McGregor. The fact that he has yet to get an Oscar nomination like haunts me.
Hmm,
So I mean, I
yes,
do
that's
you
right.
think that Andrew Scott, like, just because Ripley, like you said, did do well, and like Andrew Scott seems like maybe more of a Globes, or do you think that they're just gonna let the baby reindeer like train complete itself?
It's a
I
question.
cannot see Richard Gere getting it. I can't see that.
What's tough for me is when you have the same people up. Richard Gadd beat Andrew Scott already at the Emmys. And so it's not like it's a new contest. The real new element here is Colin Farrell. And so I
Right.
could easily see Colin Farrell beating both of them because they like the Penguins knew, and people love it, and it did well here, which is great. I also want to note that while Feud Capote versus the Swans got 4 acting nominations for the Emmys, it only got 1 today, and that was not for Tom Hollander, which feels unfortunate given that he is a central part of the show. But these things happen. Shadan, why don't you tell us your embarrassments in actress for limited?
Yeah, there. Maybe I'm crazy, but there's a number of surprises in here for me. So Kate Winslet for The Regime, which I guess in hindsight makes total sense, but I forgot that that show existed. I feel like it just didn't do any, and I watched like the first 2 or 3 episodes, and I was like, I can't keep going. Which,
Yeah.
as a Kate Winslet fan, says a lot because normally I'm like ride or die for whatever she does. But so we have Kate Winslet, Naomi Watts, the only nomination for Feud, like you mentioned, Sofia Vergara, which you did call Abe in our previous predictions episode. She did end up making it in. Christine Milioti for The Penguin, Jodie Foster for True Detective Night Country, and Kate Blanchett for Disclaimer. So this is a fascinating category to me. Maybe the most interesting of all the TV, because it's like, do you go for Kate Blanchett because she's Kate Blanchett and Disclaimer's very international? Do you go for
Jodie
Jodie
Foster.
Foster? Yeah, Jodie Foster. But just fast. I just Kate Winslet getting in just floored me. I was really surprised.
Well, yeah, I had Kristen Milioti would also be a fun win, and I think that's distinctly possible. I got 5 out of 6. I didn't have Kate, but I had Natalie Portman, and it turns out Lady in the Lake
Mm.
is what people thought the regime would be, completely forgotten here. It still has a chance at the Emmys, though, as I believe. I don't think I think no, the regime was last season, so does not anymore. And in this case, Jodie and Sophia and Naomi and Kate are all holdovers from last season. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting category. Any thoughts on that one, Stacey?
Yeah, same as everyone else's. I did completely forget about the regime, and same as you should. I think I got all the way to the part where she was singing "Baby I'm Yours" on that stage, and I think it was with it being an election year. I was like, I have an oligarchical person in real life trying to take over. I don't know that I need to see the fictional version of a megalomaniac, but yeah, she was great in it, but I was like, this is too much.
Well, let's move over to the comedy musical races, although musical it's not. Oh, sorry, there is a musical nominated, one that could be called a musical, I guess. But for actor, this category was not a surprise. I got 5 out of 6, missing one, and I'll get to that one in a minute. But Jeremy Allen White, Steve Martin, Martin Short, no surprise. Jason Segel shrinking, I am delighted. I was concerned, especially after the Critics' Choice. I think he is great. Adam Brody, nobody wants this, which I really enjoyed, but I was never sure if it was really going to be an awards player, and it is. It is AFI,
Mhm.
it is Critics' Choice, it's here, like it's doing great. And then we have Ted Danson, who we like a lot for A Man on the Inside, which I know we had mentioned. I said
Yeah,
Brian Jordan Alvarez, and I'm a little surprised given how well that did with the Spirit Awards and the Critics' Choice that that show was just not on here, which is a little bit. I don't know. I'm not sure what to make of that.
I think that has more to do with accessibility if we're talking about being able to have it because it's what channel is it on
It's
officially?
FX, but also Hulu. Like it's
Okay,
yeah.
Yeah.
yes. And um yeah, for whatever reason, it is not the easiest to find, even if you go and you start searching. Like it takes a few tries before it actually comes up. So I can see that being something that people were excited about, but then with the inundation of all the other content, maybe it ended up kind of being at the bottom of the list, which is unfortunate because that series is fantastic. So we'll see.
Um, and Stacey, you mentioned like a perfect couple may have been a little bit too campy. That was always my concern with Nobody Wants This. Like, I was like,
Mm,
are they going to take it seriously because it's just like a Netflix rom com? So the fact that Adam Brody and Kristen Bell, spoiler alert, both made it in is really, and it got series as well, I think. But no, so I'm really thrilled. And again, I mentioned this in our predictions pod. I just feel like Adam Brody is just one of those actors that's been around for a really long time and has never had a moment. So the fact that this is turning into something of a moment for him is really exciting. So that's probably the nomination that I'm happiest about. And Jason Segel. So we should mention Shrinking did get Harrison Ford in at the Globes last year, but Jason didn't make it in. Jason made it in at the Emmys, but
I thought Harrison Ford was not nominated last year.
let me
I
double
was pretty
check
sure.
that.
Yeah, so
But I
that's we don't want to
think
spread. I was
Yeah.
that's why I was so excited he got in this year because he didn't last year. Which again
You
makes it
guys keep
exciting.
going while I double check.
Mm-hmm.
I will also say that Adam Brody winning would be a very Golden Globes kind of win. And he certainly has stacked competition. So I don't know that it's guaranteed, but I will make that trepidatious prediction right now. Did
I
anyone
kind of
else? Yeah,
think that, oh, I kind of think Ted Danson might take that one. When I,
except the show is not, nobody wants this as two other nominations, and Ted's its only nomination.
Well, and that's why. That's what I'm saying is that I can see them
Yeah.
being like, well, we love the show, and so we want to support the show. And so we have other options to vote for it versus This Is Ted. And because when I tell you they are pushing that show, I don't, and I mean, it's a cute show. It's sweet, it's fun, but yeah, I feel like he might be the dark horse on that one.
However, that's Netflix pushing the show, which also happens to be responsible for Nobody Wants This. So it's
Yeah, well,
possible that they're gonna,
exactly.
you know,
You
did
think they might kind of, yeah, okay. Ooh, that could be interesting. We'll see.
Okay, so Abe, you're right. So this is Jason Segel's second Golden Globe nomination for Shrinking, Harrison Ford's first, and then at the Emmys, both Jessica Williams and Jason Segel made it in last year, but no Jessica here for
Mhm.
Shrinking this year.
I don't know why. I don't know why Shrinking isn't like getting 8 supporting nominations like it really should. But
I
did either
wonder
of
if
you?
it's a Bill Lawrence thing. Because Ted Lasso did so much for so long. And I don't know, they're like, take a seat, Bill. You gotta know.
Possible.
I don't
It's
know what it
possible.
is, but because he puts out quality. And again, we were talking about Bad Monkey, and snubs kind of all around for that one. And so yeah, but he puts out quality content each time. It's always so good.
I am pleased to have gotten 6 out of 6 for Best Actress in a Comedy or Musical. We have a very expected but formidable lineup here. Gene Smart for Hacks, Quinta Brunson, Abbott Elementary, Io Devery for The Bear, Selena Gomez, double nominee Selena Gomez, spoiler alert for our film section, Only Murders in the Building, Kristen Bell, Nobody Wants This, and Catherine Hahn for Agatha All Along, which is not a musical,
So
but they do
happy
sing
for
some stuff,
Catherine.
so you could call it
Yeah.
that.
And that's what we were talking about, the Globesiest of Globesiest kind of things. That nomination is what represents that. And if she sneaks out with the win, I think, has Jean Smart won this before? Yes. Okay. That's what I figured. I couldn't remember if she hadn't or had. I think Catherine has a really good chance if people just kind of disregard the ones that are just always in there. Kristen Bell, I'm wondering what kind of impact she made. And I think that will be interesting to kind of see what happens with that voting wise.
Do you think there's a world where Kristen and Adam just take like both win? Because also Kristen is another one of those actresses that's been around for so long and so many
Mhm.
things that people like, and I wonder if maybe they feel like it's time to give her something.
Well, I wonder if they feel like they already have given her something and just aren't, you know, aren't putting it
Mm.
together like, oh, wait.
I think it's possible, but like actor, it's so
That would
competitive.
be
Like it's not like
wild.
she's gonna
Yeah.
steamroll over Jean Smart, Quinta Brunson. I would like it's hard to do that. So I'm willing to predict it right now, tentatively. But yeah, we'll definitely come back to all this. Let's take a look at drama actor. Who wants to take that one?
I can do that one because this one actually had some surprises for me and a few things. So we have Donald Glover for Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Jake Gyllenhaal for Presumed Innocent, which you called Shadan, Gary Oldman for Slow Horses, Eddie Redmayne for The Day of the Jackal, Hiroyuki Sanada for Shogun, and Billy Bob for Landman. We did kind of discuss if Landman was going to sneak in there, and
Mhm.
it
Sorry,
absolutely
knew that was going to
did.
happen. Yeah.
I was very
Yeah.
surprised with Jake Gyllenhaal only because like I know that show has its stands, but I don't know how deep it goes, and so I know that he's kind of a Globe darling, but I felt that there were so many competing performances that would have overtaken that. So I'm pleasantly surprised to see him in there. Of course, called Gary Oldman. I think Eddie Redmayne was also a little bit of a surprise, but I also don't know what that show is, which makes me sad.
That's what I was gonna mention. So, like, literally the day after we did our episode, I just kept seeing the Day of the Jackal everywhere. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, like that could be something. But it was just one of those things that wasn't on my radar at all. And then I kept saying Eddie Redmayne, the Day of the Jackal, and people were talking about it and I'm watching it. So I think that we were, for me at least, I was like a day behind because if I would have seen it, then I would have, because it makes sense in
Oh,
hindsight. I just didn't know what it was. So
and this
shame
has
on me.
Yeah,
Latasha. Oh, what's her
Lashana
name?
Lynch, yeah.
Miss Lashana Lynch. Yes, Lashana Lynch. Miss Honey.
We did have it. I did have an interview with Eddie when the show started, and he is very good in the show. I'm a little surprised it did so well. It's more notable for premiering 5 of its 10 episodes at once and then doing the rest weekly, which is a bizarre launch strategy. I'm a
Hey.
little more surprised that that show also got into drama series and Presumed Innocent didn't, because I feel like Presumed Innocent like has such a good ensemble cast. It's strange to just honor Jake. The bigger thing is that Fallout completely snubbed, not shut out, not here
Mm.
anywhere, whereas we thought Walton Goggins would be. And I also had Lee Jung-jae from Squid Game. And even though Squid Game made the top category, it's weird not to have him, as he is the only returning cast member, and you'd think that he would be critical to its success.
Well,
Interesting.
Abe, this is a larger point that I want to talk about, and it also comes up on the movie side. I don't know what to make of it. So there's a lot of like, Naomi Watts gets in for Capote, nothing else. Jake Gyllenhaal gets in, nothing else. So like, there's a lot of that. So do you think that that just means that people are watching things? Do you think that they're name checking people? Like even the
Mm,
next category, if you want me to read it. So we have
Please, yeah.
best performance by a female actor in a television series drama. So we have Kathy Bates, she gets in for Matlock, Emma Darcy, House of Dragon, Maya Erskine, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Keira Knightley, Black Doves, Carrie Russell for The Diplomat, and Anna Sawai for Shogun. Um, if I'm not mistaken, like a lot of those, so Kathy Bates, that's the only nomination for Matlock.
And Black Doves
And
also,
House
which
of
I'm so
Ho- Right, and I think House of the Dragon didn't get anything else. That's the only
which
nomination
is
for that
yeah,
show.
because it won last time. Like it's very strange. And then of course it didn't get any
Mm-hmm.
acting nominations at the Emmys for season one. Like I like it in the sense that it's so spread out. I just wish people were paying more attention. Similarly to Moeka Hoshi, I wish had been nominated um for Shogun and supporting actress. I forgot to say before. It's like when people only pay attention to certain performances. That say someone like Billy Bob Thornton won a gold for Goliath a few years ago, and the show was never
Right.
nominated. So like certain people, I don't know if it's just name checking, it's that like people are watching those shows and they like them. And so Kathy Bates, I mean, she's doing good stuff in Matlock. It may not be everyone's cup of tea, but like it's a good performance and she's trying hard. And similarly to Keira Knightley, even though I think Black Doves should be a nominee for Best Drama Series, I do like that, spread out a little. And we were definitely off on our thoughts that Mr. and Mrs. Smith might not play here since it did
right.
exactly as well as it could have. But I'm still surprised by Fallout. We also had Sharon Horgan from Bad Sisters in here, and that did not come out anywhere. I think part of that is it a drama? I sort of think it's a comedy, and I'm not sure people know, and so I think that could be contributing. It's like, are you going to vote for something where you're not entirely sure? And the answer is people vote for the bear all the time, but I guess not for other stuff.
And to your point, I think the Kathy Bates thing is name. I think that it's kind of like, Jamie Lee at the Oscars a couple of years ago, where it's like, okay, yeah, you did a great job in this, but this is really the career retrospective.
For the last 3 categories, I don't think there's that much more to say because we don't have any well, we have one or two that are not nominated for other things, and we'll get to those. But otherwise, for limited series, certainly. I mean, we have Baby Reindeer, True Detective, Night Country, and I think and Ripley. Those are the 3 holdovers from last season. And then adding now, we have Disclaimer, we have The Penguin, and we have Monsters, the Lyle and Eric Menendez story. And I think I think I mentioned last time that if the Emmys hadn't been pushed off by the strike, I think that the first Monster, Dahmer, would have won everything instead of Beef. And so I think it's worth remembering that. And so I still think out of all this stuff, Baby Reindeer is the one to beat. That said, similar to the nobody wants this enthusiasm we're talking about, I think the Penguin could like go ahead and grab this in the other acting races again with tremendous competition in every one of the fields, but I think it's distinctly possible.
Yeah, I think Ripley is going to be a bit of an upset in some of I think it's going to perform a little bit better than what people want, but I think it might be because of some split votes. I don't know how many, I mean, I know Disclaimer has a murderer's row of talent on it. I don't know that I've talked to anyone who's watched it. And I'm kind of wondering when that happened in terms of like, who are all these people that are voting for it and did they actually want to, that kind of thing. Um, Monsters being on there just is, it feels like you were on there because Dahmer was so good. But the problem is that this version isn't great. And so it's almost annoying that, this gets on there instead of like The Perfect Couple. No, but I'll go to the mat for that show. So fun. But I feel like, yeah, I feel like it's gonna be between Ripley and the Penguin. I would love for True Detective to do more, but I remember when it came out, there was so much weird discourse about, oh, no, it's about women, and so it's not as good, and just all that stuff. And so I wonder if this could be like a response to that, be like, no, it was great, and forget you. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Any thoughts on this one, or should we move on to?
I think we can move on to comedy musical, which I do have plenty of thoughts on a certain nomination here. So we have Abbott Elementary, The Bear, The Gentleman, Hacks, Nobody Wants This, and Only Murders in the Building. And I gotta say, The Gentleman showing up here kind of was a huge surprise to me, particularly just because that show felt like it came out a while ago. Um, and also because like Theo James would have felt like an obvious kind of shoe in for a nomination here, and he's not here. So I was really that one kind of shocked me. Wasn't really on my radar to actually show up, but I mean everything else seems like obvious choices.
It seems like
The
Shrinking would have
Gentleman,
been a more natural fit here instead of The
Mm-hmm.
Gentleman, given the other categories. But The Gentleman also got a directing nomination at the Emmys, so they're watching it. They just don't care about it enough to give it more than one little mention.
well, I think this is Guy Ritchie of it all for The Gentleman, which is why no Theo James kind of shout out. But I think they were just like, the series overall, it's Guy Ritchie. What are we gonna do?
But to your point, Abe, like you get the double nominations for Shrinking, but then you don't nominate the show. Like I'm trying to find like a pattern or like a way to make sense of it, and I'm like, it doesn't really make sense. Like maybe I don't know, maybe a lot of times they just ran out of space. Like maybe a lot of these people we're talking about are number 7, and there was just not enough space. I don't know, but just a lot of interesting like, oh, we're gonna pick this, but not pick this in this year, or maybe
Well,
every
it
year, but
does.
I don't know.
It also feels like they're like, well, I can't put it in for best TV series because Only Murders, Abbott, and The Bear are automatically going to have 3 of those spots. So, if I'm thinking that I'm only going to get a couple spots, so maybe what I'll do so that the production wins is that, well, we can put this in actor, we can put this in actress, we can put that in directing, etc., just so it at least gets recognized, even though it's, instead of kind of putting all of its eggs in one basket.
I will say I'm a little surprised that The Bear did as well as it did, only because the Critics' Choice nominations literally just supporting actress for Liza and nothing else. And that's a huge deal that like people are just like, okay, we're done with this. But the Golden Globes are not done with this. They have
Well, people
4
were
acting
annoyed
nominations, you
by
know?
yeah, people were annoyed by this last season, and it was a slow burner, and there are reasons for that. So I think, but I also think it's a very American press versus foreign press
Mm.
reaction, where they may be a little more willing to kind of wait it out and see what happens, because it has some amazing episodes.
That's what I think happened with like Capote, the Capote, like the feud. I think that is just such an American figure and an American show that like maybe international audiences aren't gonna latch onto it as much.
Well, for our last category, drama series, we have half of the nominees are holdovers from the Emmys, Shogun, Slow Horses, and Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which we had all sort of, backed Fallout a little more than that, which again didn't get anything.
Is that a
Squid
drama?
Game, Fallout,
Mr. and
yeah.
Mrs. Smith?
Yeah, yeah.
I would have
And
put it on.
got its three nominations. Again, yeah, like all this stuff you can sort of argue. Squid Game back, but only for drama series, which is sort of weird. The Diplomat, which did well at the Golden Globes last time, but still has, we'll see how it does otherwise. And then The Day of the Jackal, which is a bit of a strange inclusion, only because I didn't know it would take hold. That said, I think it definitely is well done and it's interesting. And I still think, I think the other races are more competitive. I still think Shogun is going to run away with all three drama prizes, and there's not really a need to make predictions in any of them, which
Yeah.
is disappointing in some ways, but they're also incredible. So I'm not really, I don't mind.
It's a good year to be Shogun.
Yeah, I think to your point earlier, Abe, like I think they did do a good job of spreading the wealth a little bit more, or at least it seems like they were watching more things this year than maybe in the past. So does that translate to like maybe winners a little being a little bit more spread out? So maybe like somebody from
Mm.
Shogun loses, or maybe might split up like comedy actor and actress, or maybe they don't. Maybe they just have a more sweet mentality. But it is fun to see. Like there's a lot of stuff recognized here. Which I was not expecting. I was expecting it to be a little bit more clustered together. So I think overall they did a really good job. And like the Golden Globes have been criticized before for maybe not putting as much thought into their nominees. And I feel like this year they really did.
Well, I'm glad we had the chance to talk about this. Make sure to also check out our film conversation. But thank you for joining us. We'll be back soon. I'm Abe Friedtanzer.
I'm Shadan Larki.
And I'm Stacey Yvonne.
Thanks for being with Awards Bus.